A narcissistic parent can make you feel guilty because you aren't giving enough to them. Their needs are insatiable, and they don't have the ability to think about you and empathize fully with you. A narcissistic parent can make you feel that you're dull or bad or that there's something wrong with you because they don't have the capacity and the instinct to feel life through your eyes. They're not genuinely nurturing of you. And a narcissistic parent can make you very angry. And as you grow up, adolescence, you may express that anger. In some circumstances, it's dangerous to express anger to a parent. They own you financially. They can hurt you, and they can expel you. The children of narcissistic parents do have a disadvantage. Now, if you're an adult and you recognize this, and you read about it, so it's not your fault, and you know what you have dealt with, then you can take certain steps. One step is to make it so that you're not dependent on them.
That's really important. They want their children to be dependent on them, and whether they succeed in that or not determines how they feel about their child. For example, when I was way more dependent on my mom, she enjoyed that, and I didn't enjoy that, but she did enjoy that. Narcissistic parents, I believe, have kids for the wrong reasons. I believe they have children because they think that children will love them unconditionally and never leave them. That's actually upside down. The genuine motive when you want to have a child is to love them unconditionally, love that child unconditionally. It's not ever a good reason to have a child because you want to breed other people who will be dependent on you and never leave you and try to fill a void. No. When it comes down to it, I think that these parents have children to secure love for themselves, which is totally backwards because naturally you want to have a child to give them love, to share your love with them. This is just how they commodify their children. And when you get older, and if you do realize this, it's a really heartbreaking reality.
Another is to try to be careful that they don't become dependent on you and that you accept a burden of caring for them financially or emotionally when it's damaging to you to do.
That's interesting, and I can relate to that, having a parent who wants you to be dependent on them, but who is also dependent on you. So it's like a codependent relationship. This is Park Rose permaculture. Does your family practice dishonest harmony?
A couple of weeks ago, I made a video on the concept of dishonest harmony, and I was surprised at how many people were not familiar with that term. Dishonest harmony is where folks need to avoid conflict. They cannot handle the uncomfortable feelings that come with having hard conversations, with facing hard truths. It's an avoidant behavior that tries to keep the peace by actually not resolving the conflict at all, but turning a blind eye to it.
On the screen, it says not letting kids show emotions like sadness or anger or grief is common in families with dishonest harmony. Parents are uncomfortable at seeing kids' distress and authentic emotions.
It's not just we don't want to air our dirty laundry in public. It's that we don't talk about difficult things. We pretend that they don't exist.
Yes, we're going to pretend like our problems don't exist. We're going to pretend like no one is feeling uncomfortable. And we're going to pretend like everyone's really happy. And we're the closest, most tight-knit family on earth. And it's all a lie.
It doesn't matter whose feelings are hurt and what relationships are damaged. The priority is avoiding the uncomfortable feelings that come with having honest, open conflict.
Oh my gosh, there were so many times where in my family, I would bring the family together literally to try to explain or address something that was really bothering me, and not just bothering me a little bit for a little bit of time, but something that had been a huge issue for me for years. But it was not allowed to be spoken about. The information keeping is a huge thing and ways that the toxic parent is able to triangulate everybody against each other. So when it comes down to it, in a lot of families, including my own, each child has a completely different parent almost, because the way that parent has been treating that child, what they've been telling that child, how they've been expressing their love or withholding their love from that child, it's completely different based on each child. And it's really screwed up, and I think a sign of a dysfunctional family to have different children play different roles, especially a favorited child, a scapegoated child, a forgotten child. When you have these different roles placed on the children to satisfy that parent's emotional needs, dysfunctional family.
Dishonest harmony creates an illusion of domestic bliss, an illusion of happiness. Kids who grow up in households with dishonest harmony are frequently gaslighted into denying their feelings and denying experiences. They're told, that didn't happen. Don't
Yes.
look at that. Folks rarely apologize and take accountability for their behavior because it
Rarely or almost never.
makes them really uncomfortable to have to face the fact that they've done wrong. We've got to look happy. We've got to perform happiness. We have to present harmony when under the surface, there's all of this unresolved stuff hanging on.
That term really resonates with me. We have to perform happiness. And I think that probably everyone in the family probably would resonate with that feeling to some degree, that we are all performing happiness, except maybe the parent who's controlling everything. Because I don't really think they can feel true happiness.
At the end of the day, everybody can see through it. Everybody involved in that familial or relationship situation that has dishonest harmony, everybody knows there's an elephant in the room. Everybody knows it's not a safe place to be authentic and honest.
I would push back against that a little bit. I don't think everybody knows that consciously. At least, maybe subconsciously, everybody knows that. I don't think that you can say everybody in the family knows that. It takes a long time for people to grow up. And even then, in adulthood, a lot of people don't notice that their family is dysfunctional, especially if they continue the cycle. So I would push back against your point there.
So did you experience dishonest harmony in your household or maybe even your workplace? Or your church community?
Yeah.
How did you deal with it? And how does it impact the way that you have relationships with other people and what kind of communication that you have now?
Eventually, I just left the family. There were some really good comments on this video. Someone said, "We just thought the elephant was our pet." Another one says, "I have been low contact with my family for several years. My mom said, I thought we were a happy family. I realize now we were only happy when we catered to the most toxic people in the family." And this comment particularly funny because family photos growing up felt so uncomfortable for me. Never really knew why. My family in a nutshell. This is why I hate family photos. They feel so disingenuous. Yeah. Let's check out some more TikToks. This is the holistic psychologist on TikTok. Let's check it out. How to deal with an emotionally immature parent.
I'm an emotionally immature parent. In a couple minutes, I'm going to disagree with you, and I'll get emotionally explosive.
I love these spoofs, these parodies. I think they're so funny. I don't know why. Maybe it's dark humor. I absolutely love it.
I'll say things like, I can't take this anymore. All I've done for you. I put you through college and you're ungrateful. You're going to give me a heart attack. My nervous system is stuck in fight or flight. So this is the only way that I know how to react. I'm familiar with the script.
I'm familiar with the script. This is how you treat me, Mom.
And you often give up or just yes me to shut me up or calm me down. I get really emotionally flooded and I start going into pleaser mode because I'm so overwhelmed. But the thing is, I've been working to become more emotionally healthy. So now when you go into your emotionally explosive mode, I can respond in new ways. What new ways? When you dominate the conversation and get really loud, I can remind myself that you're trying to intimidate me and control me. And it's not my fault that you can't manage your emotions. My inner child will get overwhelmed, but instead of reacting in childlike ways, I can remind myself that we're both adults now. And because we're both adults, I'm capable of disagreeing with you and having my own opinion.
Oh, wow. This is a huge thing that I haven't talked about on my project yet. That's a key aspect of it. They don't want their kids to be independent. They don't want them to actually grow up. It goes back with the whole theme of this episode, which seems to be that they don't want their kids to be independent or adults or have their own families or boundaries at all. They want their kids to be dependent on them. They have to fall in line. So if a lot of the time, if you start to have different values or different beliefs than your parent who's emotionally immature, they're going to take that as a personal injury, a slight to them. They're going to think that you're hurting them because you have a different value or belief than they do on something. I swear to God, this is how it works. You're not allowed to be your own person, your own authentic person, your true identity with your parent. And that's how these kids, especially kids who are alienated, who don't have the influence or the protection of their other targeted parent, this is so dangerous for those kids, especially because they're not able to express their true identity much of the time at all. And so what happens is they lose parts of themselves, they bury parts of themselves, and they become a shell of themselves that they think is what they need to be to please their parent, to survive in the family.
When you have unrealistic expectations, as you often do, I can remind myself that my role in life isn't to meet those expectations and that you're fully capable of dealing with disappointment. When you try to blame me for things that I haven't actually done wrong, I'll no longer defend myself. I also don't need to feel guilt or like I need to make you feel better because I'm no longer a child. I can't expect you to change, but I can definitely change the way I respond to you.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. As much as you point out the issues in the relationship, as much as you point out how they hurt you, specifically why it hurts you, what they can do differently, what you need them to stop doing, what you need them to start doing, you can't make that parent do it. You can't make that parent see how they're hurting you. You can't make them take accountability. You can't make them apologize. That's the hard part. Okay, so here's one that I want to touch on because a lot of the time I talk about father-daughter because that's my own experience. I wanted to include this little TikTok about mother-son enmeshment. Mother-son enmeshment occurs when the relationship doesn't have a healthy hierarchy around emotional boundaries. The son learns from an early age that being independent is not acceptable or allowed. It is most common when the mother shows narcissistic traits and he's hypervigilant around her big feelings. Upsetting her induces strong guilt. He doesn't really have his own personal space. He believes he has to share personal aspects of his life with her. She pushes and expects details and information. He relies on his mom for emotional support and to make most of his decisions. His mom manipulates him. She guilt trips him. His mom overshares her personal life inappropriately. He feels responsible for his mom's emotional well-being and worries that setting boundaries will hurt her too much. This could probably be applicable to daughters as well. So the common theme in this TikTok is just, again, that dependency and the upside down roles, the almost caring for your parents' needs, taking care of your parents' emotions, supporting your parent emotionally. Inappropriate. It's definitely inappropriate. And it really should be the opposite. It should be the parent taking care of the child's needs, the parent supporting the child. And something I've seen that they do hand in hand with all of this is the self-victimization. So they're just the constant victim and they inspire pity in their child again and again as part of how they keep their child on that leash, how they keep their child in line and keep them on their side, keep them relying on them and keep them there taking care of them. They make their sons feel really bad for them. They make them feel like they're really weak and they can't do anything for themselves. They can't be alone and they're just lonely and most of it's just for show. Here's another one. If you've watched any other TikTok reaction videos of mine in the past, you know that I love Ben Cole Edwards on TikTok. So let's get into it.
How come you have abandonment issues from your childhood when your parents were never there emotionally to begin with? Let's unpack. The answer is there. Your parents were never there emotionally, but they were there physically, which is A, confusing, and B, it creates this people pleaser in you. Because the times where they are there emotionally, just when they are a normal human being and look you in the eyes, you think it's love. You think that's validation. You think it's love. You think it's my parents see me. So the abandonment issue we have as adults is not always a parent leaving. It's a parent being there but not being. So then as an adult, we fall in love so easy sometimes because someone sees us. Someone looks you in the eye and says, okay, how are you? I listen to what you're saying and here's my response. People have normal human conversations with you and you think, this must be love. Are you my soulmate? So sometimes when we get into a relationship and someone shows affection towards you and then they take it away, you think, oh shit, this reminds me of how it felt to be a child.
Interesting. Here's this other girl on TikTok. She actually just came out with a book called Save an Orange for Me or Save Me an Orange. Haley Grace Poetry. Let's listen to this one.
Imagine your card gets declined at therapy, and instead of bringing out a person, they bring out a needle and stick it through the vein that runs through your arm and make you examine the blood that runs through the tube, just to remind you that you are the product of your mother and father. And as the blood runs through the tube, you are reminded that your uncontrollable rage and your ability to feel everything so deeply is infiltrated through your blood. This blood is what makes up you, and you can't change these things about yourself.
I included this one because I think it really does relate to parental alienation, how you're an alienated child. You're made to believe that your one parent is bad, doesn't love you, crazy, abusive, whatever it may be. And so that as a child, you internalize that because you know that you're half of your mom and half of your dad, because you know that you're half of both parents. So you internalize that rejection and you reject part of yourself and you hate part of yourself. And so that's why I included this video. It really seems I related to it as somebody who's been through the alienation.
Drain the blood. You can't cut the tube. You can't change the people who made you. You can't go back in time and ask them to control their rage and to not feel everything so deeply. It's hard because it's not like makeup. I hate my nose, so I contour it, and I wear highlight in my inner corners so people don't stare directly into the boring color of my eyes. I wear bronzer so I don't appear so pale. I straighten my hair so my curls don't look messy. But how do I hide who I am? How do I hide the uncontrollable rage that runs between my veins? How do I hide the fact that I'll always be my father's daughter?
Whew. Sadly enough, I feel like that's something I could have written before while I was alienated.
I can't contour the blood or my DNA. I can't apply concealer to my big heart in hopes it will stop feeling everything so deeply. I have to live with it, but your card doesn't really need to decline at therapy for you to realize that.
I'm going to end on a few poems and words today. So this poem is from a poetry collection by a Canadian author and poet named Rose Brick. It's called My Father's Eyes, My Mother's Rage. My mother didn't want to hurt me, but she was broken. Her brokenness cut into me and made me bleed. She didn't know how to love, or at least how to love me. It didn't even matter that she hurt me. I just wanted her to be sorry. She said that she loved me, but it often felt like hate. When I finally had enough and tried to be free, she looked at me with desperation and cried, "You're abandoning me." So I stayed and I suffered. And I did my best to love her. As a woman, I have so much empathy for my mother, but as a daughter, I have so much anger. I think anybody with a mother who's alienated them, or a father, if you want to substitute that into that poem, could relate to all of those feelings, those complex feelings. And it often is easy to blame ourselves rather than blame them because we love them. And maybe I'm going to end on this actually today. So this is called The Anti-Child Family Creed by Steffi Wagner at the Mother Wound Project. And this is so relatable. If you can relate to this, let me know in the comments. But here it is. If the parent says it didn't happen, it didn't. If the child says it did happen, they're lying. If the parent did it, the child brought it on. If the child did it, the parent is innocent. If the parent feels hurt, they're the victim. If the child feels hurt, they're mentally ill. If the parent estranges, they had no choice. If the child estranges, they're evil incarnate. If the parent tells their story, they're strong. If the child tells their story, they're cruel. Amen to that. I can't think of a time in my life where I've heard of some type of family dysfunction or where a child has stopped talking to a parent and anyone has turned to that parent and said, "My God, what happened? What did you do?" Because it's so unnatural for a child to reject a parent. There has to be severe manipulation. There has to be either severe manipulation for a child to reject a parent outright, or usually in adulthood, there have to be ramifications from abuse or neglect or other mistreatment, serious stuff. Children don't just reject a parent. We rely on our parents to survive. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope that you found it helpful or insightful. If you could relate to any of these things that I've discussed, particularly the parents needing their children to be dependent on them and what it's like to have a parent like this, let me know in the comments. If you're not a member on YouTube, we are having live chats coming up. They are the first Sunday of every month, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's about an hour and a half where I just answer your questions, chat with people who are members of the channel. It's going to be happening on September 1st. So actually the first day of September is the first Sunday in September. So September 1st. I'd love to see you there. I love to be able to talk to people because I know that I have a lot of support and a lot of people really are behind this project and my mission here. So I feel really bad because oftentimes I'm not able to answer every email and every message because I get hundreds of messages. I do like to have that window of time every month to be able to chat with people who support this project. If you click join, you could become a member of the channel. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye.